We have got us a power struggle at the top, some layoffs at the bottom, and some casting all around the show. All that and more on the Suits After Show. Come on with us.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
We've got shoulders, left, then right, then left. These shoulders are legacy shoulders here at AfterBuzz TV's Suits After Show, Season 8, Episode 1. Right-hand man, I am your solo host here tonight, Steve Kaufman. Normally you're not supposed to give your Twitter up top, but since it's just me, I'm at Steve Kaufman. That is Kaufmann. Thank you all for joining me here. I'm going to talk about Suits with you. I'm pulling up the chat right now so I can have some type of banter that isn't just all in my own mind, which those of you who follow me know is kind of there. There's kind of a backward-forward banter in my mind. So let me pull up the chat when it's convenient. This was a fun show. For those of you who don't know, which should be none of you, the way season 7 ended was Meghan Markle and Patrick J. Adams leaving the show. Jessica Pearson had already left the show. So season 8, episode 1 is, by all accounts, a repilot on episode 1 of what's considered the last season for the entire series. So this is a fairly unique situation for television in general, for any television show. I know there's been enough television that it's happened a lot, but it's a fairly unique situation. We've added Katherine Heigl as Samantha Wheeler, which we'll get to. She's a brand new addition to this show. And then, honestly, there was a pretty good backlog roster, if you will. I'm trying to think of a bench. There was a lot of depth in the bullpen from this cast, because I think the Meghan Markle stuff they all knew was coming. Jessica leaving the show, they all knew was happening, and then a Jessica spinoff they also all knew was happening. So I think it was they had enough time to prepare for this, that this didn't feel completely out of left field, to stick with baseball analogies, that it was just kind of normal, that it felt the flow was there. It felt like a normal episode of the show we like, just without Mike and Rachel. And now I'm going to turn it to the chat here and have you guys tell me how this episode fared for you as I pop out the chat so I can make it bigger so I'm not squinting like an old man when looking at the chat. Lindsay Ivory Neptune in the chat. Where's Tiana? Tiana is working on a show you may have heard of that tapes on Wednesday nights, so she cannot be with us. I can tell you the availability of everyone who's ever been on this after show, believe me. But moving forward, I think I want to get into, I did some initial thoughts of the episode. I guess I want to jump into the power struggle at the top, because this is where we started, this is where we ended. Obviously, this Samantha Wheeler character is going to be very big moving forward. And it all really stems from Harvey and Zane. Harvey is obviously managing partner because it was his firm at the end of season 7, and it had been his firm since Jessica had left. Robert Zane merges in order to save all the kerfuffle that happened last season right before a wedding. It was all, if you explain it to another person, it seems more complicated than it actually was. However, in reality, I thought this was very, very well timed, very well paced, that none of this feels like a huge stretch to get here. So I do enjoy this power struggle that we're getting between Harvey and Zane about managing partner, which Zane has been a managing partner at another firm, I would argue, for as long as Harvey has been a name partner anywhere, if not like just an associate anywhere. Zane just has a longer, more storied career. So Harvey is managing partner, and Zane kind of takes a back seat to him, just kind of lets him know, hey man, we can let this happen when it happens. We're both being cordial, we're both being right. And we learned this is Zane's ploy the entire time, because he knows that Harvey will fall on his sword. And I think what we're learning throughout the episode is Harvey's not necessarily ready to be the managing partner. He's not necessarily ready to be the guy who will do whatever it takes and lead the team, because you can't be both of those guys. You're either the coach or the player to a certain extent. And I think, honestly, Zane is a better coach because he's played. He's He's picked his fights. He's taken his lumps. He's done the kind of stuff that Harvey still feels he needs to do. He still needs to, like, face off with a lot of people. He still needs to go into the boardrooms. He still needs to deal with Mike leaving and why Mike left, and maybe some issues he should always be having with corporate law, but that's an endgame, a season 8 kind of a thing. But ultimately, that's what I would think we're doing moving forward with Harvey, is that in this season, we're going to get him kind of rounding out his time as a player, if you will, versus a coach. Like a standard bearer, but not a standard bearer and a leader, but leading by example while someone actually leads and makes the hard decisions and lets people fail, which is something Harvey can't really bring himself to do, and that's some ego he'll eventually have to put aside. I said I'm going to get into Samantha Wheeler. She's played by Katherine Heigl. She is the new addition to this show. Everyone else that you've seen bumped up to regular cast, including Amanda Schull or Dule Hill, have all been characters that existed and have happened on this show. Samantha Wheeler, played by Katherine Heigl, is the first character to be introduced. She has Jessica Pearson's style. She has Harvey's wit. She has Harvey's wit and tenacity, and yeah, I'll go with that. Those are the two qualities. I can definitely say that they've poured it over to another character fairly well. I think, I don't know. I have my issues with Katherine Heigl as an actress and just as a performer, so I've been trying my best when seeing her this episode to not let them support my guys of the actual character. And I think overall she's playing a very good foil to everyone in this universe. She's a pretty fresh take that's going to get some fresh eyes on a product that, to be very honest, after a royal wedding, which the entire cast of the show was at a royal wedding, and then the woman who was married at the royal wedding isn't on this show but is from this show, you would think they're going to get a lot of new, fresh faces watching this show. So you would need some fresh blood in there. I mean, from a business standpoint, a name. Katherine Heigl versus the rest of the cast, not to downgrade the rest of the cast, but they also needed to round out the roster, to bring it back to a baseball analogy. But yeah, I enjoy her interaction with Alex. That seemed very genuine to me. It seemed like those were two people who were really in the trench. And a comparison I think Lewis kind of made tonight, very coyly, that I caught immediately, and I want to know if you guys caught this too, is that what's going on with Alex and Sam is very similar to what's happening, or what happened with Lewis and Harvey. And Lewis was trying to, give some advice as to the new leader of the ship is Robert Zane, so you need to get on Robert Zane's side. But he also did a good point. He also made a good point to say, you don't want this to be adversarial. This person works with you. This person, if this person's great, they'll be here forever. If this person's not great, they'll be gone on their own. Do not pick a fight with someone. Do not pick a fight with someone and deem them on your level and get dirty, because he was digging through boxes upon boxes at 10 o'clock at night to try to actually get into something that she had done wrong, to come after her, to get dirt. And it was interesting because, I don't know. If we're talking Team Alex or Team Sam, I am definitely Team Alex. So everyone's saying senior partner. So that's another thing when you're talking about Team Alex versus Team Sam. One of those people are going to be senior partner. Probably, I'm going to say by the end of this summer series. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we do 10 episodes in the summer and then less episodes in the spring. It's either or. Don't quote me on which one, but I'm saying the summer series, which I believe is 10 straight weeks starting now. By the end of these 10 weeks, one of these two will become senior partner. My money is on Alex, because Sam, honestly, she's...
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Thank you for that. I was a little ahead of myself on the predictions, but it's happening. Shout outs to in the chat. Just Sheldon's in the chat. Lindsay Ivory Neptune is in the chat. Come along and join me in the chat. I should have tweeted the link, but a lot's going down. I have a lot of scattered notes all across the desk here. I spoke a bit about Alex wanting to be senior partner, Harvey making a promise to Alex for Alex to become senior partner, but because of the Robert Zane deal, he can't. But now Harvey's promise to Alex is that he will be the next, name partner. Name partner, he's already a senior partner, like close. He's already a well-ranking senior partner. He's name partner. He's going to be name partner or Sam is going to be named partner. And they've kind of set up a bit of a battle for the next 9 weeks over which of these two will be named partner. Will they ever play nice? How will they coexist on one of those weeks where they have to coexist? And I think it'll be fairly interesting to see. I think the character of Samantha Wheeler was very well written in the sense that the Riverside, New York detail versus the grew up on a farm detail, and the way she explained it, I both like her and hate her at the same time. Because I like that she can compartmentalize people to pretty much two-thirds. Two-thirds of people I don't want to F with. And this is how I know. I'll say something wrong if they don't call me on it. If they don't call me on it, I don't care about them. If they notice it, or if they don't know, you guys saw the show. If they don't notice it and don't call me on it, I don't want to care with them. If they notice it and then really don't call me on it, I really don't want to mess with them. And then there's the third of people I actually want to mess with. Harvey Specter being one of those third of the people. Honestly, she feels like a 10-episode stunt to me. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong because she's great. She's great and I'd like to see more. No one really leaves this show except for, becoming royalty. So it's really, yes, thank you. Lindsay Ivory Neptune, it will be 10 this summer and then 6 in the winter, probably starting somewhere around January or February. So what else do we have about Sam? I think I've covered the power struggle at top. By the way, the actual nuts and bolts of the case here is that they both agree. Both Harvey and Zane agreed to do one thing. Agreed to get their respective clients to drop a thing. Both of them went after the other's respective clients through associates, which pretty much led to the fact that Harvey showed his hand a little, that he's not ready to be managing partner, and ultimately through the help of Donna realized that he doesn't want to be managing partner. So there's that. There's that. I thought that was very well done, and it let us know moving forward that we're still going to get the same Harvey Specter we want, and that Zane is going to fill that role of actually running the ship. So let's move into, because we were just talking about Alex, and I talked about Lewis and Alex and that exchange, we can move into, I wrote Lewis and Alex twice. That is just interesting here. We can move into the Lewis and Katrina business that's fairly interesting here. I thought this was one of the stronger storylines from this show because this was the more Suits, B story, everything kind of comes together, but you deal in a lot of themes and tropes and things and characters that you've built with over time. Katrina was asked by Lewis to find the 10 bottom performing associates, but without telling him who they are, so they can just kind of be arbitrarily fired. The question becomes, did Lewis think Brian wouldn't be on that list? Or was he ultimately going to intervene anyway? Or did he trust that Katrina knew what he meant when he said 10 best performing? And what best performing means, and I'll come back to a baseball analogy because that seems to be what I'm doing here tonight. Best performing doesn't always mean best stats so much as a rising tide will bring up all ships. So if you're the best team in the world, the bottom 10 people from that team, by any metric, will be better than any other team ever. However, if you eliminate the bottom 10 people by the metrics you find important, you might actually hurt the team on the metrics that other people would find important. And that gets into Katrina and what she considers valuable metrics. And I think she had mentioned at some point 100-hour weeks was something, and Brian has a baby. That's not something Brian gets into. He has a life, and everyone knows he has a life outside of that office. And it seems like she was kind of bringing her own personal feelings to it, that she didn't, she felt people who want to work there shouldn't have relationships and babies and lives, which Lewis obviously opposes and has ultimately grown to oppose through the Brian relationship. Also, I love that the objective data, I wrote down the acronym, but I didn't write down all the acronym meant, but it came out to be Patty. But then at the end of the episode, they fired a Bridget. I think they missed a perfect opportunity to fire a Patty instead of because Patty was the acronym. That's just me. Also, they cleared something up between Lewis and Katrina that has been debated on this show many a time, which are there actual sparks? They cleared it up. It's an asexual attraction. Their own words. I find you fascinating. I find you amazing asexually. And Lewis even retorted, "I find you amazing as a human. Like, you might as well be a dude. Like, I'm enamored by you." So that clears up anyone who was Team Lewis. That's not Latrina? That would probably be Latrina. I'm not the best at the ship names. There is a 3-week ship rule here on AfterBuzz TV, but these two have been on camera for a very long time. So I'm completely within my right to call them Latrina, which you can't because it's over. It's an asexual relationship. They admire each other purely just because. Lewis and Donna, however, I think is a pairing that can still possibly happen. Jump in my mentions about it. Brian Altman is his name. One thing I will want to point out as well is if you watch this show on a DVR, preferably through a DirecTV DVR, there were 2 different spots in this episode where they had a Lexus ad that had the actual characters from Suits complete with the USA logo in the lower left. And the sole intention of the ad was to fool you into thinking you were about to miss some of the episode. I'm kind of sort of in the ad world, so I'm always interested in knowing how those things happen, and that's just an interesting kind of disruptor of an ad that, like, no, we'll sell an ad that more people will watch than any other ad because they'll think they're missing their episode. They'll think they're missing their fun. One question I do have about Katrina. Well, 2. 1, I was unaware she wasn't already senior partner. That's just me. But she was saying, like, I'd like to be senior partner, and I'd like the responsibility of firing these 10 people. And I was like, wow, she wasn't senior partner? She didn't have this responsibility? Wasn't she senior partner at the Zane firm? And then, like, the title would have come with her? That's all very new to me. And two, when she has this dinner with Brian, after Lewis specifically told her to find a reason to keep Brian, which to me means keep Brian, that's a direct order, she fired him. And my note here is, does she have the authority to fire Brian? And then the way Brian acted beyond that kind of fools me in the sense that I'm like, if someone who kind of sort of has my title of associate, but just is a couple years my senior, does that, like, office hierarchy, I'm not sure if that person can actually fire me. So the way he flipped out at Lewis, I don't know. I would have gone to Lewis and straight up asked, hey, question. Does Katrina have the authority to fire me? Just spitball it. Just hypothetically curious. Can Katrina fire me? Because she tried to. So should I be packing my boxes or should you be yelling at Katrina? I think this is, like, if this is between y'all, this is between y'all. So Lindsay Ivory Neptune says that she is junior partner. I could buy that. But she worked under Lewis in, like, season 1, I want to say. Man, she should have really worked harder at Zane's firm, I guess. Also, we got an F-bomb, a very well-deserved F-bomb from Louis Litt in this episode. I thought this was great. But yeah, I think that about covers the topics. I think I bordered on predictions, but I'm going to stall a little to see if anyone in the chat has some predictions for me that I can kind of play with, deal with, see about. But other than that, I think I'm gonna mosey on over to predictions, and then I think I'm gonna get out of here in record time for a 45-minute drama.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Whew. All right. So there's a power struggle at the top, or at least there was, but for a managing partner between Harvey and Robert Zane. This episode leads us to believe it's over. That the power struggle ended, and that Harvey's going to go do Harvey stuff, and then Zane's actually going to run the firm and essentially do Jessica stuff. My prediction is by the end of these 10 weeks, Harvey is going to kind of sow those oats, if you will. He's going to move forward. He's going to do what he can, and by the end of these 10 episodes, he's actually going to have to throw down with Zane or another partner that's still somehow sort of involved in this firm, because there are a lot of partners that are kind of sort of getting a check from this firm and not involved but are involved and can be involved, and however it is, one of those partners are going to come back, or Zane's going to leave, or there's going to be another power struggle, in my opinion, by the end of these 10 episodes. Probably a cliffhanger leading into the winter stuff. I think that's my first prediction. As I mentioned earlier, I think Alex is going to become name partner, and not Samantha. I think Samantha is honestly going to get fired. I think she's ultimately too insubordinate. I think the problem is she seems to have some kind of dirt on Robert Zane. What kind of dirt do I think that is? I don't know. In short, I don't know. Lindsay Ivory Neptune's got nothing, LOL. Thank you for joining me here. I'm trying to think if there's anything on the surface about Robert Zane that we can think of. The only thing I can think is that we had that prison case about 2 or 3 seasons ago where he got very political for the first time. Or that's not political. He got personal in the sense that he took a case for a personal reason versus a corporate reason. That fair prisons and not racism, that's not political at all. But he picked a case specifically because he's a black man in America. And I wouldn't be shocked if in his tenure as a leader, he picked another fight like that and did something shady to make it go down. And that Samantha Wheeler was involved or has something on him to blackmail him. That's in my opinion, what would be there, what she would have on him, what kind of dirt he would have on him. Let me know in the comments if you think there's other kinds of dirt that possibly could be there. That feels like a very safe guess to me, because maybe that's because I'm partial to that being the most interesting, meatiest part of the Robert Zane character, is that he feels like a soulless corporate lawyer until you actually see him at his house or like talking about burgers or actually fighting for what's right from his position and giving a really good reason as to why he needs to fight for what is right from his position of power. So in my opinion, that would be the most interesting way to go about whatever dirt Samantha Wheeler has on him that would make him look great, because you don't want her to have dirt on him that makes him look terrible, because then what are we going to do? What can we go from there if we don't like him and we're not necessarily set up to just love her? Like, I think she's there to be everyone's foil, kind of like an anti-hero, which I'm okay with. It would feel out of left field to me if she became just a straight up normal, oh, no, everyone loves her. Where I'm like, I wanted to kind of not. I wanted the opportunity to not like her. Let's see what else we got. We've got Brian, we've got Katrina, we've got Lewis. Lewis is in a relationship. He's trying to have a child. I've been a little outspoken about this storyline. Maybe there will be some retooling. Other than the fact that she's making him give up his cats and considering getting a short hair cat, there's nothing else really going down with Lewis Litt and this woman. But I think trope-wise, she has to get pregnant, and that's a thing that affects him in his life and in his heart and in his soul. And as a character, that's how you get him to grow, is make him care about another person more than he can possibly care about anything else. So, yeah, you heard it here first, guys. Real hot take: Lewis is probably going to get pregnant. Not him personally, but the character is going to be. I'm just gonna walk it back. I think everyone knows what I mean when I say that. Thank you. That the woman the character is dating is going to get pregnant, whose name is not on any of my dozen cards. Beyond that, I think Katrina will have to find a love interest. I don't know who. That'll probably be someone they introduce. Also, Jessica Pearson is getting her own spinoff on the USA Network. There was a really good title pitched on this panel that they did not go with. They went with something else. But I'm sure her involvement, which will then create a Suits universe, if you will, her involvement in a Suits universe will mean that at some point we'll get involvement from her. We'll get a crossover episode. We'll get her coming back. Now, the big question is, do Mike or Rachel come back? I say no. That's my honest to goodness opinion. The best we can get is Rachel on a Skype call with Donna. I think that's the best we'll ever get of Meghan Markle being on this show ever again, and it'll probably be promoted to death. So if it hasn't been promoted to death now, it's probably not happening until the final half of season 8, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is the final season of this show. That's my prediction. She's never turning up in that office, on that set ever again. She's a princess now. She doesn't have to be. Could Mike return? Possibly. The question is, you would need the occasion to be momentous for him to return, and it would need to be the most not corporate case imaginable. It would need to be a little guy case or a little guy's case, because that's all Mike has really done in the last 3 seasons of this show. So if you see Mike return, that's how. And I'm sure they would love to have Mike return. They would love to have Megan return. I honestly don't see it. I think they've had a plan and have set a plan in motion for a very long time where they can run this show completely 100% without these characters, because they had enough warning to build up other characters from the bench to actually do this. That will be my last baseball analogy, I swear, because I think it's time to head on out of here. Thank you all so much for joining me here at AfterBuzz TV. Be sure to like, rate, subscribe. If you're watching me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to this channel on YouTube. It's the Drama Channel. I do a lot of stuff here on the AfterBuzz TV networks, including the Netflix Pick Show, which is on the regular AfterBuzz TV show. I also cover a lot of wrestling stuff, which is AfterBuzz TV Sports and Wrestling. Subscribe to all those channels. Rate us 5 stars on iTunes. I'm Steve Kaufman. You can find me on Twitter at Steve Kaufman. That is Kaufmann. I also run 4 different I run 4 different YouTube accounts for pro wrestlers, and if you'd like to find out which 4, you got to go ahead and follow me. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.